This meeting
as
is
fast as we can.
being recorded.
First item is to approve the minutes or to suggest corrections for the minutes of the meetings of May the 24th and June the 9th. Does anyone have any comments on those?
No.
No.
Can I have a motion, please, to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? No. Okay. Good. The first thing is somewhat sad. Priscilla has sent in notice for resignation from the meeting and from the commission. She's obviously been associated with this commission for a very long time. She wasn't a member as such this year because of her position, but I think we should just record our thanks for everything she's done, and are sorry that she won't be participating in these meetings going forward. That let's move on to the business presentation, which tonight is from Three Guys Ski and Ride, Michael Carr. And Mike, I'm sure you've been briefed by Bianca, but we're going to try and limit your comment, we may please, to 10 minutes. And constructive comments, please.
I'll certainly try to get more than a minute. So I'm not exactly sure, what makes the most sense to talk about here. We've been part of the town since March of last year, a little over a year now. So it's been an interesting ride. We had a really wonderful winter so far. We've had quite a bit of a turnaround for this spring. It's pretty slow and quiet, and which is good. I needed that opportunity, but it's our idea for Three Guys Ski and Ride was to offer equipment and service for everyone who enjoys the outdoors. We knew when we opened that winter was going to be, at least our first winter was going to be our target season, shall we say. We put basically all of our effort into making this past winter 2021-22 as as big as we could make it, and it was. It far exceeded any of my wildest imagination. So it was really nice, and so that being part of the community that is West Cornwall. I mean, just beyond the physical beauty of the town and the great architecture and the ease of access to everything near. I mean, there's water, there's hiking, there's biking, there's riding. I mean, there's anything there that you can you have your mindset on. You can enjoy all the outdoors right there. But I think Jack Carlson was more than she by showing us William Betts's place. We were not even looking at that building when we talked about it. We had a lot of we were thinking about other locations entirely. And then Janet pulled us into William's place, and we were blown away by the place. So we knew that was going to be, we were going to have more opportunity in that particular location than we're anywhere else. And since then, everyone in town has been really great to work with. I mean, Gary, when did you get the bears up? They're up. I mean, so it's a lot. It's been great. I mean, we're really, I'm excited to be part of this. It's really nice to hear about the history of this town and what used to go on and all of the fun things that used to take place here are now slowly starting to come back, and people are starting to get really excited about that, or at least the people that I've been talking to are. And I like to be part of that. I mean, that's the, I think Three Guys is a great, it's a great opportunity for me anyway to help be part of this community, not just the community of business owners and people in West Cornwall, but of the communities that utilize the area around this part of Litchfield County. So I think it's a great opportunity for us. I really enjoy the town. Everybody I've spoken with so far, everybody I've worked with so far, everyone I've met, who spun in and out of the shop have been great. There's been nothing but support. I've been really very excited about that.
Well, that's great.
So,
How much crossover traffic are you getting from the new restaurant?
I know I get some. I can't, but I get some. I can't qualify it any more than that.
Anyway.
I can't really qualify that because I mean, I get probably, I don't know, half a dozen or so customers a week, maybe.
Okay.
I haven't seen an increase in customers due specifically to the restaurant.
Okay. Good.
Can I ask a question?
Yet.
Of course, please.
Sure. I mean, we're sort of, we can ask some questions, yeah?
Yeah.
So how many, I don't know if you sort of know this information or could even sort of find it out. I'm curious how many customers do you think you get that are sort of regional versus specific to the Cornwalls? Like, in other words, how many people do you think you pull in from, like, Litchfield, Falls Village, those kind of places? Kent. Do you know at all? Is it even possible to tell?
It is possible to tell. It's sort of possible to tell. What I did a couple of months ago is I went through and I looked at our data for capturing phone numbers and emails, and sort of went through and looked at where those area codes were coming from. People who were bringing their cell phones to the area and allowing me to contact them by cell phone. A good portion of people were from the 22 corridor in New York. It's probably our largest group of customers. And then after that, what I saw was a huge number of Manhattan phone numbers, which, I mean, that means somewhere in the area.
Yeah.
That's about as specific as I can get. Then, so I do get quite a few customers who were with an 860 exchange with a 248 or a 672, or what is it, 672, 627, 672, 671. So I know that those are local numbers. So I can't put a definite number, but at the moment I feel like most of our customers are from the area, near and closely surrounding Cornwall and all of the Cornwalls.
How much advertising are you doing at the moment? Whereabouts?
We have an ad running right now through the summer on ZBG. I have an ad in Rural Intelligence, which is a new sort of
we're familiar,
local magazine. Okay, so if you know what it is. Just finished a run with Edible Nutmeg and Litchfield Magazine. And we were doing some geolocation iHeart radio advertising this past winter. We might do it again this coming winter, but I have not got much. I didn't get much feedback from iHeart as to whether it was completely untrackable. So I have no information on whether that was successful or not.
And any,
And we did a little FM.
Hi, Mike.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, hi, Mike. And any Google search ads at all for people who are specifically looking for, your kinds of equipment and stuff?
We are on Google. We do have we have paid for some sort of boost type thing where we float up to the top of the searches.
Right, okay.
And actually we've been pretty prominent on there. We've had quite a few hits, or we've been able to actually track that. They send us a monthly update on our metrics.
Cool.
So that's actually been pretty successful.
Good.
Mike, do you have a plan to sort of expand your merchandise for more warm weather activities?
Currently, we have paddle boards, skateboards, bikes, hiking, camping. I've got some flip flops. The only thing I don't have right now, which I find odd because I've already ordered it and it must just be back ordered, but I don't have any sunscreen. So
Fair enough. Gary, do you want to take the last question?
Yeah, Mike, do you offer free Wi-Fi to visitors to the shop?
I haven't, but anyone who asks, I let them know what our
Password.
Our password is. Yes, sorry.
Okay.
Yes.
Great.
Normally, people aren't there long enough that it matters, or that they need to, utilize it for any reason. But if they ask, I always give it to them.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I think that's actually been very helpful, Mike. We very much appreciate your participating. We're going to have to move on.
You're welcome.
Thank you. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the
Thanks,
thing.
Mike.
Mel, you wanted to go next, I think, on your report on Cornwall Day, because you have to leave, I think, at 8 o'clock.
Sure.
Thank you for the reminder.
Yes, and you're welcome. And Neil and Bianca, or anyone else on our little subcommittee can jump in, but we have ordered all three items, which is the lawn sign for Cornwall Day, the postcard that we'll hand out to the local businesses, as well as the posters. So once we get those materials, which will be on Friday, we'll divide and conquer. If anyone else on the EDC wants a bunch, please, let us know. We'll figure that out. I guess we could figure that out on email without breaking rules. And because I'm happy to distribute those, but we'll take care, as a committee, we'll take care of where the lawn signs go and where the posters go. And we did go, really, because we did not anticipate shipping costs, unfortunately. We did go over budget. I actually am on an iPad, and I'm at somebody else's house, and I don't know the number off the top of my head. So Simon, I'm not sure if we need to vote on this right now, or you want to save voting for later, or so we do have an additional 100, and Neil or Gary or somebody can help me here. To vote on as an incremental, entirely because of the shipping costs, just so.
Neil, do you have that number?
He's gonna
You're
get
on
it.
mute.
I think he's looking for it.
It's 161.39.
Well, we've got to approve it.
That's
given
the
where we are.
additional. That's the additional overage.
Yes, 161.39. Thank you, Gary.
Sure.
Yeah, so I guess we need a proposal. I'll propose it. that we pay this additional shipping cost. Do we need any more discussion? Can someone second, please?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank
Okay.
you.
TJ,
Any other
is that
questions
it?
about Cornwall Day, or no, we're all good?
All right. One other matter which affects you is, have we got any further on the representation on the Western Connecticut Tourist Board?
Is that to DeBianca or to me? I have not heard from them. So no, I have not heard from them.
Gordon, have you heard anything more on that?
I haven't heard anything more, but I can try to follow up next week.
Thank you very much. Great. Well, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Has anyone got any questions for Mayor or Neil?
No, I just want to say to I got the call back from Pat Bramley. So sorry, I haven't called her back, but in reference to Cornwall Day, but I'll get in touch with her this week. That's just for Richard.
Terrific. Let's go back to the agenda. Gary, do you want to brief us on your policy proposals?
Before that, let me just give you the treasurer's report. Our fiscal year budget ending this June 30th is 6195. And with the vote to pay the additional shipping costs, we are coming in at 6215 total for this year. So we're $20 over budget.
Right, which we carry forward to next year, right?
I'll talk with Barbara Herbst and see how we should handle that.
All right, we can have a whip around there.
Sure. Regarding the fiscal policies, I had circulated last Friday a proposal. I hope everyone's had a chance to read it. Any questions on it? It's a pretty generic, straightforward policy where the premise is that the officers are the ones who are going to be in contact with the town to request reimbursements, that any of us can pay for anything that's been approved by the EDC, but only the officers can request reimbursement to Barbara. This just basically allows me to keep track of what's going on up front.
Yeah,
Sense.
sounds good.
Yeah, one thing we all need to be careful about, I think, as Gordon has advised us before, we can only send out emails to no more than 2 of our fellow commissioners at any one time. Anything else really needs to go through the hall, I think.
Simon, I have a question on that. And Gordon, can you clarify, is it that, can we communicate one way to the entire EDC without dialogue following?
Yes.
Okay.
The main thing is you don't, at Neil's request, I did have a follow-up with Tom Hennick from the FOI Commission just to clarify this. And what he said was, the main thing is you can't discuss policy. You don't want to have like a separate off-camera meeting discussing policy or how you're going to spend money. If the committee has already decided to say have an event like Cornwall Days, then if you're executing something that's already been agreed on, then you can, do your execution. And if you say, well, who's going to put signs up in Cornwall Bridge, and you want to go back and forth and say, I'll do it, then that's not an issue. The main thing he said to stay away from is having discussions about policy and how you're spending public money, which should be in public meeting. But if you're hosting an event or something, then you can do non-policy communication and just who's going to do what type of conversations can happen freely.
Well,
Is that clear?
that's useful clarification. Thank you.
Yeah,
Can I
very
ask-
helpful.
Can I ask one more, if I'm beating a dead horse, forgive me, but so even in the case of, I need $100 for this, I can send all of that to all of the EDC. It's just that there can be no discussion of it until the next
meeting.
meeting, or should I just send that to the treasurer?
Yeah, send it, I think send it to the treasurer. And the main thing is if your committee has agreed to spend $100 or $1,000 on an event, and then all of a sudden you have an extra shipping bill, how do we get that paid? That's again, in execution. That's not developing the program. What you don't want to do is all of a sudden develop Cornwall Days. Nobody knows what it is because it's been done off camera. And then all of a sudden we have an event that where did this come from? So is that clear? But once you decide it and you rehash it in public, how you go about executing your decision, there's more leeway there.
Taking a step back, Gordon, if someone on the EDC has an idea and is willing to put the idea into writing with a budget, so this is a brand new concept, can that be circulated in advance of this meeting?
Yes, if you want to say, I think we should take out an ad in Lakeville Journal and this is the rate, here's some information. Yes, what you can't do is then go back and say, oh, that somebody else said that's a great idea. Somebody else says I'm in favor. And then all of a sudden you made a decision outside the public eye. But if you want to say mayor has a report from this tourism committee and she wants to share that one, here's a new idea, here's a state office that blah, 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 blah. You can do all the one-way stuff. You just can't say, we're going to join the I've just been down to Kent. We should join their Chamber of Commerce. Everybody agrees to do that, off camera.
We can sort of say, oh, I'd love for this to be on the agenda for the next meeting.
Absolutely.
Richard, you had a comment?
Yes, in that Gary sent out a protocol for expenditures, which is a sort of a policy that the EDC is examining or determining whether that's how they'll go about doing things. And it's I think what Gary's saying, Simon's agreeing with, Gordon's agreeing with, is that that's okay to do that. It's okay to send that out, but we can't all discuss it until we discuss it now at this meeting. But we, the members, and anybody else who wants to see it could have access to it and look at it, and we can discuss it. But the vote takes place in the public domain, and the discussion, the more important part is the discussion takes place in the public domain. And the same thing with, I think, mayor's budget proposal. It's all one way is the answer. You can't have a back and forth discussion, but you can send out information in one direction. Is my understanding of how this freedom of information policy is requirement.
That was the same as mine, Richard. The single exception you said at the beginning, we can discuss it before the meeting, which I think is voting under these rules. Is that right, Gordon?
Yes.
So you're correct. We can send it out one way, but have to wait for the meeting to discuss.
To discuss it and make a decision. Yeah, yes. Yeah. I mean, otherwise everybody's getting the information there and they're supposed to make a decision in 10 seconds as they look at something. And sort of it's all very new to them. Whereas if you get the information, it's just like getting a packet several days ahead. The agenda goes out with a big packet of 20 pages of information. That's all the information to be discussed, but that doesn't always happen to be able to be available when the agenda is going out. Sometimes things are a little different than that.
Right. So what I had written into the policy is exactly that the preference is in advance of the meeting, sharing as much information, especially when it has a financial component, so that we all come to this meeting with a baseline knowledge and then can discuss and vote.
Fine. Do we need to take a vote on your proposal, Gary? I think we probably do. So I guess
I'll propose it.
Fine.
So what are we proposing to adopt Gary's recommended policy changes? Is that the idea?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I'm not sure it's a policy change because I haven't been able to find that there is a policy.
Okay.
As a
I'll
policy going forward. I'll second it. All in, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Great. Any nays?
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gary.
You're welcome.
Oscar, I don't know if you have an update. First of all, thank you for dressing for this meeting. But I was wondering if you have an update on our Cornwall data initiative.
You're on mute, Oscar.
Unmute
Can't hear you,
yourself.
Still on mute.
Sorry, I thought I had done it. I was told I thought there was a dress code. So, I can be very brief. We are. It's the slow roll. We are going. There's a small little town issue that's going to be discussed on July 9th that I think we want to clear. And then after that, we're going to schedule a conference call Gordon and some of the representatives from some of the other committees to start formulating kind of the ask as to how this project is going to take shape so that it can not only serve our benefit, but also the other interested parties and some of the other organizations and committees within the town. So, we've agreed to get together and try and schedule a call for the third week of July after the July 9th referendum.
Terrific. Thank you very much.
Just a comment, it's Duncan. I've been doing a little work with the Cornwall Conservation Trust, and they really have these same challenges as well. So make sure that they are included in this sort of dialogue about how to collect and share more data about the town and its surroundings.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's been the the driving force here is that as the more we try to deliver numbers, we find that more and more people are interested. There's more questions, there's more asks. And so again, it's sort of the slow roll. So if we can incorporate as much early on to be as effective later on, so I guess that's a different way of saying, please be patient, because I think this is going to take a little bit, largely because we won't get the census data for some time. So that's really kind of one of the key data sets that we're going to have to rely on.
Okay, good.
I don't know, Gordon, if you have anything you want to add to that, because you've done this once before. So.
Well, only that I did talk to Janelle Mullen, the town planning consultant, and she probably has the most familiarity with these items and has the most direct link to sources. So she's going to start. We had a short list of things that we're looking at as far as things like demographics, average age, school populations, cost of housing starts, that kind of. So we have a somewhat of a list, and she's going to start digging into some of those, and then we'll finalize the list. And again, it can be fluid if there's other things, but I think part of the idea of the census too is just to have several businesses involved with the process of different types and just weigh in. Has business in the last year been better or worse than the year before? And again, maybe just throw in, a few things that people don't normally think about, but and some things they do. So anyway, I think it'll be exciting. I don't think it'll be difficult to get some things, and I think what probably would do is, because 2022 will be hard to get, but it doesn't mean we can't go back and start getting a baseline of 2020 or 2021 on some of these items. And there's going to be there's going to be variation already in 20, as the years go on. So anyway, it'll be exciting, and I think it's doable. And I think, I said, Janelle can fairly effortlessly find out what the sources are and start getting a baseline. So I would say, hopefully in a couple of months.
Stay tuned. Yeah.
Stay tuned. All right. And thank you, Oscar, for pushing this, because I think it'll be interesting. And again, as a planning document for the town, we have a town plan, but are things moving in the direction of the plan is a big issue too. So whatever, I think it'll be interesting.
Thank you very much. Neil, we've talked, but we didn't get much further than talking about the idea of getting all the businesses together for a meeting. I was wondering if you've given any more thought to that. You're still on mute.
There we go. I'm off mute. Definitely gave some thought to it. I'm sharing my screen. Can you guys see it?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, what we talked a little bit about was how we can get all the businesses, and I think it should also be commercial real estate owners together to do a couple of things. So I put together, a recommendation of an agenda for a meeting with these folks, based on what we've been hearing from the local business owners, perhaps to reaffirm what this committee's mission and role is, so they understand what it is that we are and are not responsible for. The second is a review of our current priorities and where we're at, so they know what we're actively working on. The third was maybe to share with them some other ideas or things in development that we're not sort of actively, pursuing, but things that we've been talking about, and then to have an open conversation about how we can continue to help them. So my thought was, maybe the format is an hour Zoom meeting. I thought Zoom to encourage participation instead of a live meeting where people have to give up time to go back and forth. Maybe for the first one, that would be easy. I was thinking, maybe in a month's time, we can do that at the end of the month of July. From an attendees point of view, I was thinking, again, all of the business owners and commercial property owners, as well as this group and the town selectmen. And I thought the way we could invite them was an email from you, Simon, to this distribution list. There's that great Cornwall, Connecticut Facebook group, Richard, that I think that you're managing. That would be another way to get the word out. And I thought if we included it in the Cornwall Chronicle, and I think we'd have all our bases covered. Maybe not everybody will hear about it, but most people would. And then I sort of took this agenda, these 4 items, and I thought about what we could possibly share. So the first thing then is our mission and our role. And I think I'll run through all this and then we can come back to it so it can all marinate with you a little. We have our current mission. We did hear some feedback in the last meeting about the mission, and I had been thinking about it myself as well, just reading it from an outsider, how we can very clearly lay out what is the mission of the organization. So I took a stab at revising it with the same, with the same ideas. So shifting from to create, develop, and maintain a healthy and viable business climate, locale, and heritage in Cornwall, Connecticut, to promote tolerance and acceptance of economic diversity and the right need to work in Cornwall. I thought all those were good ideas, but I revised it to something a little bit more straightforward that also includes the marketing and image, because that very much impacts the local economy. So I'm recommending an update to the mission, which reads, build the image of Cornwall, Connecticut as a vibrant community for residents and visitors, supports local business needs, promotes tolerance and acceptance of economic diversity, and positively impacts the local economy. So just try to tighten up and help with the way that it reads. And I'm sure we'll come back to that and really debate that. So I wanted to put that on the table. And then I thought, in addition to sharing our mission, for us to also just talk really briefly about so what, mission aside, what's our real role and some real words, right? So I put together a couple of bullet points of what I'm seeing this group does, which is we really promote a collaboration and integration between the businesses. And we had talked about, possibly doing a monthly digital update to the business community, a newsletter, an email or something. And I think that would be a great thing after this meeting to start doing. Certainly to create and or promote townwide events that drive increased traffic to local businesses and stimulate economic growth. We've been doing that with Cornwall Day. I think something important that we heard a lot of the agricultural community and farmers said, like, they don't necessarily need anything from us right now, but I think that it's important that they know that a role of this commission is to support our agricultural and farm-based businesses as needed. And it's, again, a great open forum to hear if there's things that we could be doing. I think to liaise with our selectmen to make recommendations to town infrastructure or legislation or just things that we hear that could potentially support local businesses. We have Janet on this call, Gordon on this call. If we hear things that can be recommended to them, we can help do that. Certainly marketing Cornwall as a great place to live, work, and visit, with a focus on younger residents and responsible tourism, which we've talked a lot about. And certainly maintaining Explore Cornwall, Connecticut, that visitor website and social channels. And there could be tons more things, or maybe these aren't just right, but I think this provides a nice overview of the things that we're doing, and I would share this is what we do. And then potentially share our current priorities and status. So, our current priorities are improving internet and cellular services, including free Wi-Fi, would be great for them all to know. To have representation on the Western Connecticut Tourism Board, we just talked about that earlier. Somebody from this committee would do that. We're working with many different committees across town to work on a new data dashboard, which is what Oscar's working on. Certainly working on new business recruitment, knowing what open real estate is around, annual event support and new event development, such as the Cornwall Day, 12 Days of Christmas, just understanding what's out there and keeping that calendar. And then our Cornwall visitor marketing program through our own channels and some PR. We just, have been getting some nice PR, the Peace and Rural Intelligence. So those are sort of current priorities. So this way everybody knows what we are doing. And then, some additional priorities in development, there might be many. These are things that have been side conversations, so we'd have to agree if we even want to share these things. But certainly, I know there's been talk of new crosswalks in West Cornwall and Cornwall Bridge. I know some folks have just been investigating like how that even happens. There was been talk about creating new directional markers for Cornwall Bridge and Cornwall Village, just like that one across from Ian Ingersoll's in West Cornwall, that really pretty sort of light one that came up in the last meeting. I've been doing some investigation of what that would cost, so we can see if that's even of interest. Maybe those two don't make it to the meeting. And then I would put this as a handout, which is Cornwall Town events, to make sure that we have all the events on there. And again, I put a little note in italics here. These are events that represent, they're town-wide events that contribute to the economic vitality by engaging locals and visitors. And the reason I put that note is because there are many more events that happen, but they're individual business events, or they're more localized to specific target audiences. These are sort of the broad events group. Again, I'm sure that we could debate what goes on here, but there'll certainly be a lot that people might offer up that maybe don't make the list because they're more specific. So that's the way I imagined the meeting going. Again, just for the business community to understand what it is that we do, what we're responsible for, what we're working on now, what's on deck, and then to hear from them, how else we could potentially help them. So I will pass it back to you, Simon, and the team for any questions or conversation.
Well, first of all, thank you. This is a tremendous start. And it's most useful. Will you, as usual, distribute this to the members of the EDC so that we have time to reflect on it and we can discuss it in greater detail, I think, at the next meeting?
Yeah, I think this is a classic situation. This is information that should come to the EDC before the meeting so that we can respond to it within the context of it. And secondly, just Simon, were you aware that the idea of a business owners meeting might also lead to recommendations about changing our mission?
I was not, but it's something we have discussed, and it's certainly
Well,
fine to roll
I mean,
it into it.
again, this, that a recommendation to change our mission should not be coming out of the thin air in the middle of an EDC meeting. This is, it's not something to be wordsmithed like this let alone by a non-EDC member. If people believe we have work to do on the mission, that issue should be raised, and we should figure out as a commission how we're going to respond to that, because it is work.
Point taken, but let's thank Neil for pulling this together, because I think it's a wonderful piece of work. I think as regards distributing it before the meeting, there was some confusion about what the rules were. I think we now have a much better understanding of what we can do, and doubtless Neil will.
Yeah,
circulate
and
it again
I would
before the
also,
next meeting.
I would also offer that we're not really sort of moving on this right now. This is being brought up to discuss. So I don't particularly object to hearing something the first time during a meeting. I think if that becomes a rule, I think we're all in trouble. So I think I know what you're saying, but I just think, like,
yeah, but the
we're
idea of
looking at it.
this meeting is proposed for July, so this is it.
Right. So the one thing I will say, Duncan, and to everyone, and I talk about this a lot at work, there's always the first time that you're going to hear something. If it's the first time that we hear something that requires more conversation, and there's a recommendation to move on something in July, probably the first recommendation is let's not move forward with that date. I don't think it needs to be rushed for that. I think we should say there's, a lot of stuff here for conversation. So maybe, the date is the first thing to move. I don't know where else, we potentially would bring this thought in. So I just leave.
That's a very fair point.
Arnon?
I thank you, Bianca. I think that Neil makes a great point, and I think one very reasonable option would be we can acknowledge that we need to have this on the agenda for consideration internally for our July meeting. We can hold the July 28th meeting because there's really no reason to delay meeting with the community. And at that meeting, we can pose to them, this is our mission statement as it stands. Does anyone have any thoughts they'd like to share about it? And then based on that, we can come back to the drawing board and decide if we need to amend it.
And I would point out, we do actually have another meeting in July, on July the 26th, which will enable us to put this down. Would you feel more comfortable though, Neil, pushing this off a little better?
Yeah, I think we can certainly do, the meeting with business owners later. I'm always, I'm moving,
So-
but do it later for sure.
So I was wondering, maybe August would be better because you're talking about putting a notice in the Chronicle, and it's a tad bit late for that as July is already upon us. But I think it might be good maybe in August or even in September, because I think business people are really busy in the summer. And September, I think, often offers a little bit of a lull as things are going back to school. I mean, that's just from my experience with my own business in the last, I don't know, decades. And then we could really bring people together. And then we've been also past the Cornwall Day to have an experience, how did people fare with that? How, and how could we improve it in the future, to have points of discussion then at a later date. So either, do it in August or September.
I would agree with what Bianca is saying, and I would say September is even a better idea. Get past Labor Day, have the summer activities, the summer events, and then everybody takes a sigh of, catches their breath, and have a business gathering of some sort.
And I would
And
say,
it also gives the board a time to put it together.
right.
Good.
And I think it might also be nice to do it in person, to really, because I think that was one thing that Adela and James had talked about, to get people together, because I think the being on Zoom is one way, but the physically getting together and interacting, I think, is really important as we've come out of this COVIDian era.
And I also think on that front, I think, look, I could be wrong, but I think participation is going to be our friend with this event, certainly the first time. it comes up, if it's timed right, I think people are going to, you make it nice, and I think people are going to be eager to sort of meet each other.
I think if you also, if you send out an invitation maybe 2 months in advance, you're more likely to get people to come live.
What does Michael Carr think?
I think that's a great idea, actually. And I would be actually, quite eager to meet the other business owners around town at an event like that. I think it'd be a great idea.
Okay, so we will have a detailed discussion on this at the next meeting. Neil, you'll distribute this, and then we will individually think about it and come together to share our views on July the 26th.
Can I ask a question? I think maybe some of the sort of strong reaction to talking about the mission statement, maybe that is sort of a separate animal that we could separate out from this event specifically, so that we don't get sort of waylaid a little bit. You know what I mean? And if it's a worthwhile discussion to sort of chat about that, we should sort of chat about that.
I think that makes perfect sense. In my experience, defining a mission statement is an incredibly time-intensive business. So I suggest we just go with the mission statement that we have, and we can address that. One thing you did raise was Wi-Fi in Cornwall. And Gary, you wanted to say something on that?
Yeah, this was an unfinished item. I had circulated last Friday an updated cost to bring Cornwall Village free Wi-Fi. We had approved at a prior EDC $1,000. I now have a best estimate now of $2,467. This will be built on the library's Wi-Fi. The technologists from Ed Advance and Ray Conti Electric have submitted proposals. Gordon has approved the configuration, which will, there will be a signal sent from the library to town hall and then boosted to the town green. So to bring Wi-Fi to free Wi-Fi public to Cornwall Village, we need to approve another $1,467, which will come out of next year's funds. My proposal is actually to ask for $1,667, anticipating there may be some additional costs that I don't know of right now.
Okay, well, we'd agreed to proceed with this, and it's a little more expensive than we hoped, but that it's something that we agreed in the past we needed to do. We need to be a little careful with spending next year's budget awfully fast, and the next year doesn't yet start. Does anyone else have any comments on this? Richard?
Yes. So that's the infrastructure cost to install the system, and the maintenance cost on it would be picked up by the libraries. I'm asking, I'm not.
Yeah, Richard, the library has a free public Wi-Fi at this point for people in and around the library. They have opened up their access to anyone. They have agreed to allow us to boost the signal to reach town green, so there will be no additional cost to the EDC or to the town on an ongoing maintenance.
Do you have a sense, Gary, of how far into the town green that signal will reach? Will it also reach the town tennis courts, which are right next to it?
Well, the tennis courts should be reached currently from the library because they're close enough. The goal is to have this reach the far end of town green, basically UCC. It's 200 feet. Clear sight line is perfect, but there will be some trees during the summer, so it may not be perfect for everyone in every spot, but the goal is to cover town green.
It may be a little more than we anticipated, but it sounds like an exciting end product.
I think part of the larger cost is it was unknown how it would be done when it was originally proposed, at least a year before this. And looking into it, the idea that was originally proposed, which would have been built off of town halls Wi-Fi, would actually be incredibly more expensive. So that the library is allowing their network to be used is a great savings. But now we have hard numbers instead of pulling it out of the air.
I know we talked about this, but how will people, the public, how will the public standing on the green or walking around or at an event know that it actually exists? Or will their phone or device automatically pick it up? Or do they have to?
Basically, yes, you'll be there, you'll take out your phone, you'll ask for a Wi-Fi network, and there'll be this one that will pop up, and you click on it and you're good to go.
And it's going to say something that seems appropriate to attach to.
It'll say, Mike most likely will say Cornwall Library free Wi-Fi.
I have a question. How far does the current free Wi-Fi reach towards the green?
It doesn't.
Okay.
It reaches the very edge near the library. In the dead of winter, when there's no leaves on the tree, you can get 1 or 2 bars in the center of the green. But once the trees are in, it's.
But so where the farmer's market is, it doesn't have service?
No.
Okay.
Not from the library, no.
Anand?
This, maybe I missed something, but just what kind of delay would be acquired to get the accounting in line in terms of next year's budget? Like how many months would we have to delay to avoid taking almost $1,700 out of next year's budget? Like, is there something we need to vote on this meeting or next meeting, or I'm just wondering about the time frame you're working with?
Yeah, my proposal is to have this voted on tonight.
Yep.
And give the approval to the electrician to do the installation. The hardware is already there. And Ray Conti, he had mentioned it will be about 2 weeks from go date to live. And this is the right time. It's the summer.
Yep. Got it. Thank you.
I wonder if there's any way we can apply for a grant for this. I know it's rather unusual, but the various things like the Cornwall Improvement Society, the Cornwall Foundation, both of whom I think would find this appealing. I'm not quite sure what the mechanics are.
Due to the, yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think due to the time frame to try and have free Wi-Fi in Cornwall Village now, I would suggest we go forward with funding it ourselves. We are then going to discuss bringing free Wi-Fi to Cornwall Bridge and also extending Wi-Fi in West Cornwall. And that might be a great, better opportunity to request funding from outside the EDC.
Fair enough. And again, the obvious point I'll make is this will consume approximately almost a third of, together with, I think, our other expenditures will consume almost a third of our budget for next year. As we think about this, I think it's worth doing, and I think something which brings life to the village green, where a lot of the major events are held right apart from the farmers market, makes a lot of sense. And frankly, this may make the green even more attractive than it already is. Bianca?
Janet had just suggested that if there's a possibility to go through the ARPA fund, Gordon would maybe know more about that, but to look into that for the Wi-Fi in various areas.
Gordon?
The upper fund at this point hasn't been replenished with next year's funding. So, and I think also you have to have some connection to COVID So again, that would be a question mark. I don't think that we don't have a pot of money that says ARPA on it at this point. We will get some at some point.
Okay, so it sounds like we need to fund it and something else.
Janet just said in the chat about Litchfield, and to her point, obviously Gordon said, the pot for this year is empty, so that's not necessarily an option for this situation, but moving forward with other town centers, this year Litchfield worked with Optimum and where they're putting their fiber cabinets, and they hooked up a bunch of town Wi-Fi up the green and around their sports fields and a couple places that have a lot of people gathering and have very dead zones for cell coverage. And so it's obviously, town by town basis based on needs, but in the future, we definitely might be able to do that.
That's the, look, I think we've sort of committed to it. I'm not recommending anything, but I do get concerned that the sort of the public Wi-Fi concept is a sort of, it is a concept that is sort of past its core evolution, right? And that the sort of the 5G LTE cell service coverage seems to be sort of really where public internet access is moving to. It's interesting to hear about the sort of the Optimum and Litchfield thing. I guess I'm sort of on sort of a little bit sort of on the fence on the sort of the value of it if in fact we're going to have LTE coverage or 5G coverage there 2 years from now anyway. But that is obviously an unknown. So just want to sort of mention that my anxiety on that front.
Fair point. Gary, what's your view on that?
It's a difficult decision.
And there's probably no right answer.
There is no right answer. There's no clear cut, but it is something that the EDC has committed to in the past. And we either move forward or we pause.
Well, I would suggest that a possible funding source would be the Cornwall Village Improvement Society, or Cornwall Village Improvement. I'm not sure what they are. It's an entity that does exist, that does take care of a lot of the things.
Janet, please mute yourself.
In Cornwall Village, itself, they don't take care of Cornwall Bridge or West Cornwall, but it's something that deals with the plantings and the improvement of Cornwall Village. They've planted a number of trees. I mean, that's one of the things that they've done. So it's possible that that entity would be willing to fund some of this. I think they're in the process of helping, in conjunction with the town, put electricity onto the town green. And this may be a similar kind of thing that they would be willing to fund. And that may be a relatively simple or relatively easy, I won't say simple, nothing simple, relatively easy kind of process. I'm not quite sure what the logistics of doing that is, but maybe a couple of phone calls would tell us. And thereby saving the EDC some of its funding for later in the year.
Yeah, I think a lot of these funds will not give money towards an expenditure which has already been committed to, I think. I don't know if that's
Well,
the case.
I don't know. I think it's something that could be determined with a phone call or two.
Yeah, exactly.
Whether
I'm
it's
just saying we should be careful of them.
Well, Richard, we could do two things. One is if the EDC wishes to approve the funding for this and wait on, and if you're willing to do the phone calls, I have not heard of that improvement group to see if they're willing to fund it or someone else.
Well, I'm not sure about anybody else. I'm just bringing up this particular group that is specific to Cornwall Village, only because that's what we're working on right now. And that particular group wouldn't be interested in helping in Cornwall Bridge or some other area. Yeah, I'd be willing to make a phone call. I'm not sure, you know, I'll see what I can find out. And
Thank
maybe
you.
I can get back to you in short order on that later this week
Thank
or
you.
early next week it may be nixed immediately. It may be something they just want more information and they can make some decision. I don't really know the procedure.
That's great. I think at this point, I would like to propose the spending of 1467 additional with another 200 possible as approved by the EDC, and then pending what Richard might find out.
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion? Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any against? Jane?
It's
You're a
there.
nay? Do you want to discuss it or?
No, that was my vote.
I think it's carried. Good, thank you, Gary. Gordon, do you want to give a quick report?
Sure. Well, as people should be aware, probably the biggest vote the town will take for economic development will happen on July 9th. There has been vigorous debate. So it's really important because the town has 2 general business zones, both very small on the zoning map, probably each combined comprise about 2% of the town, if that. So most of the big business in town has to happen in 2 places, one of which has most of its buildings non-compliant with the health code. So anyway, so that will be decided. The town cannot tell people how to vote, but as EDC members, this is a big thing. I mean, as far as if West Cornwall is going to recapture some of its economic vitality and have room for expansion, this is clearly a key component of that. And I think that's our big focus for the next 2 weeks.
But Gordon, is it appropriate for EDC members? First of all, can you encourage us to support the effort? And secondly, are there other things that you think we can do in the community to help get the thing approved?
Well, again, I think the biggest thing is to be informed because there is misinformation circulating around. I think the biggest thing is to encourage people in town to look at the video of the town meeting that was held last Saturday night. And it was a really good discussion. I mean, it wasn't all one-sided. People had some concerns and people made some good presentations of the factual basis under which the town's considering this. So that's about as far as I can tell people, that to, look at the videos, look at the voting requirements. People that are property owners can vote on this type of thing. You don't have to be an elector. You do have to be an American citizen and a property owner. You have to own property. You have to have the property in your name. It can't be held by a trust or LLC or something. So I think that's the biggest thing, is to have people, we've got 2 weeks for people to dig into the issue if they haven't. And there's some really good information out there already on the website. So if people say, what about it? I would just say, look, here's some good resources. People have their own opinions, but again, a lot of things are out there for people to look at.
Thank you.
Gordon, where on the website is that? Is that easy to find?
Should be. Yeah, there's one thing, the West Cornwall group has its own key documents, and the meeting itself is on the front page.
Mhm.
The video of the meeting.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Made by somebody you knew well. is up on the front page.
Really?
And it's good just to watch how these things work. It
Right.
was a in-person town meeting in years, and it went on for about an hour and a half. So a lot of different things, a lot of information came out. Again, thanks to the committee for hanging in there. But this has been going on since at least 2006.
Wow.
Whatever.
So it's gone through a series of town plans. So here it is. And the thought is that we've done our part to try to get a lot of funding. There is government interest in grants, which Cornwall doesn't usually qualify, but because we have been working on it so long and have plans, there is funding there. The problem will not go away, but the grants might. So, and ultimately the town is held responsible for what happens inside its borders.
Right.
So, and I think overall, just lifting all the boats up, I think resonates with people. It's my feeling that everybody in town benefits by having healthy villages and having services you don't have to drive half an hour to get. There's a lot of reasons, economically, but also socially, getting a place for people to meet, gather, outside of work or outside of their residences, as opposed to some towns have no businesses, which makes them less than a place that has places where people can, say go for services, meet the neighbors, do all that good stuff, create jobs for people that then can, serve the town, have kids in school, all those good things. So I don't know. I have to be somewhat neutral.
Right.
But I mean, I think these are all points that have been brought up, which I think are very valid and I just think it's a very important vote for the town to take at this particular time when we see some resurgence happening. But there's more that could happen, and it's a tough village to try to renovate because of the parking, because of the very small lots, because of the wells that are sometimes in the buildings, basements. It's tough, and you're going to have to use the latest stuff. You can't accomplish things without some really good thinking and some really good technology to help overcome some of the natural obstacles that are there in a very quaint 19th century village. I mean, it was not, it was built on the assumption that everything was going to go in the brook and into the river. It wasn't untreated, which has happened up until fairly recently.
Well, I think one thing that I would like to mention too is, creating work opportunities for people being employed close by, because we do all rely on the volunteer fire department. And if that ages any further, we need new people to be in this town working close by so that they can actually facilitate that fire department. Because in the future, if we just push that all aside, we'll have to look at a paid for fire department, and that cost is probably a little bit higher than what the septic is going to be in near site. So something to think about too.
Good point. People almost have to work in town in order to respond on that basis. And
exactly.
Another little point too, it's hard to invite, what's sort of exciting, it's sort of hard to invite people to like a business meeting, because there's so many people now working from home who would also like to see, because that's a huge component of the Cornwall economy. And the town doesn't know everybody or whatever, but that's just another whole point why this whole thing fits together and is really important, as well as to have a focus there. Because
that seems to be clearly something for Oscar.
Yeah, there's businesses you aren't allowed to do in your home that you can only do in the general business zone. So that's why it's important to have these two villages be thriving, and as opposed to semi vacant. So anyway, enough of that. I think you all get it.
Yeah.
But, it's good to have people. If people ask you questions, just say, "Hey, there's plenty. Here's a really good resource. See it in action." People laid out the arguments pretty much.
Right.
Thank you.
Simon, time check, your loyal secretary only has another 15 minutes to record minutes.
No, well, thank you. That's exactly what I was going to say. Janet, do you have anything to add to Gordon's comment?
You know, I mean, there's never a bigger opportunity for us to really make a difference. You know, I haven't been involved since 2006, which I'm not exactly sorry about, because that's a really, really long haul. But we're never going to get this money again. It is a once in a lifetime chance for this town, and the town's eventually going to have to do it. So, you know, it's just something to think about. So highest best use of every single building is a big deal. And, you know, we don't have as much space, but we could maximize everything, which would literally double the availability of businesses here. So, you know, talk to your friends, talk to people. You know, like, I can't push one way or another. The town has to remain neutral, but you guys don't. So
Okay.
It's a huge opportunity and a big deal.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you. You guys are doing amazing work. I mean, like, really super amazing. I'm really proud of the work that you're doing too. So thank you.
So one other little news item that is really important is that this Optimum has started to pull building permits for the cabinets for their fiber optic system in our town. So again, how that's going to interact with you know, coverage and things is to be determined, but whether there will be a cellular component to all the cable is one of my questions. But anyway, they are pulling, I mean, again, they are pulling permits, which is a big deal. So anyway, I don't want to take a
Okay,
bullet.
no, that's very positive.
That's a big deal.
Bianca, do you want to?
Simon, I just have one more quick thing.
Yes, sorry.
Sorry about that. So we do have an additional new business in West Cornwall. It's actually physical therapy. So we have a physical therapist in West Cornwall in the Conservation Trust building on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And we're looking to build more medical capability in that building also. So stay tuned on that. But another, you know, more business coming.
Is that in West Cornwall, Janet? Or?
It's in West Cornwall, yes. In the Conservation Trust building on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And she's going to be doing more promotion too. So she'll, you know, be able to make herself more available.
Probably talk to her. Thank you, Janet. Bianca, do you want to give us a quick update on Buy Hire campaign?
So we sort of decided last time that we sort of do away with the Buy Hire local campaign slogan, more sort of a support of local business initiative.
Yep.
And in that respect, I would like to work on updating the business listing on the Cornwall website. So I looked at the Cornwall website, and the business listing, I just recently had a contact from someone outside through the .org site asking for real estate recommendations for you know, a home, a small house. And so I went to the .org website listing, and there are 4 realtors on there. It's not updated. And maybe we all could, as a homework for the next meeting, look at the website, see what businesses are there or are not there, and make mental notes and bring that and sort of comprise a better listing. I think Neil actually had done something like that, and I'm even wondering if perhaps we could rather have a business listing separate on the Explore Cornwall site, because it might make it easier. It sometimes seems that Rocco is a bit overwhelmed with all the things that need to happen on that .org website, and maybe we could add it to the Explore Cornwall.
Okay, and also roll it into the
Yeah,
business meeting.
because it really would be helpful if people could go to a site and find a local realtor. I suggested to that gentleman to look at the Explore Cornwall site and go to all the real estate listings that are currently available in Cornwall, and just pick and choose and go through there and figure out who he would like to work with, aside from a few other people that I knew to suggest. But that would be helpful. And there are other businesses that are not on there right now. So I
Okay,
think
so
it's really
let's,
important.
Yeah, who should we direct corrections to that list to?
Neil, because he has a huge listing.
If Neil wants to send me his list, I'm happy to cross-reference it and go through and do some Googling and see
That
what
would be
I can
great.
turn up.
Thank
Great.
you,
Yeah.
Anna.
Glad to do
Appreciate
that.
that.
Great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll send that list. I'll send it to this full team because there certainly might be some businesses missing as well,
Yeah.
and we certainly don't have contact information
Right.
for all the businesses. So I'll send that out to everybody. I believe all the appropriate businesses are listed on the .com, but certainly let me know if we're missing some. But I think this will be a good sheet for the .org. So I'll send that to this full team.
Thank you, Neil. And that's a great intro to your to the last point. Is anything happening on purchasing social media advertising?
That's
No.
perfect. The one thing that we had talked about at the last meeting was spending some minimal dollars in social to boost some of our visitation posts on social media. So what I wanted to do was request $100 that we could use to test and see what type of return that yields for paid social. I think that would, be a good start for us to see if that's a good channel for us to use paid or not.
That again is going to come out of next year.
Uh-huh.
How do
Gary?
you assess? Oh,
Gary, what's your view on that?
Oh, that's fine. If the EDC would like to do that, I think that's perfectly fine. We have not, which we should soon start looking at how we want to spend the remainder of next year's budget.
Yeah, I think that's critical. We ought
So
to do
instead
that
of an
at the
ad
next
hoc
meeting.
basis, a more planned basis.
Right. Again, this was unexpected. I'm in favor of it. Do we want to have a motion or do we need to talk about it?
Can I just ask what kind of so if you do a little paid social, how are you evaluating what it's doing? I just don't know. Do they?
Yeah.
What are you sort of looking at?
We would look at the increased number of impressions. So the number of people that are seeing the post would be the primary metric. And then I would look at engagement with the post. If there are more likes, shares, or reposts of it. So really social is a upper funnel, awareness tactic. So if we see that we are really gaining more eyeballs and more interaction with it, then I would say that that's successful.
So in other words, this $100 could sort of fuel that experiment, and you've already got a good baseline because you've been doing non-paid for quite a while, so you know what those numbers are already.
Exactly so. That's exactly right.
Great. Seems smart to me.
I have a question, Neil. When you do this, would you make those posts some kind of sort of general Cornwall posts as opposed to, for instance, specific real estate posts or specific activities? How would you handle that?
Yes, I would try the first one as a general Cornwall post and see what the response is. I don't think it's appropriate to support any specific business. So, I think it should be broad. I think we can promote outdoor activities, maybe like key things to see and do,
Okay, well, that's what I was feeling. I think that if it is going to be a paid post, it's better if it's general Cornwall or all Cornwall, or I'll put on a light so I exist, right?
Yeah, I totally agree.
Okay.
Anyone else got a comment on this? No, can we proceed to a vote? I'll propose that we authorize this.
Second.
Daniel seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All against?
Aye.
Approved. Perfect. That gets us through the agenda. Are there any comments from the public on this call?
I
Michelle?
haven't, oh, sorry.
Please.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to thank Neil for your help on spreading the word on our Park and Rec events and ask if you would just continue to do so. We have this Friday is our first event. Well, second event. The town picnic went well, but this is the first one that is to be through the region. 6 to 8 o'clock. It is the Zola Boys coming up from Torrington, a bluegrass band. There's a food truck and an ice cream truck, or you can bring a picnic 6 to 8 o'clock. And as you finish, you can head over to Lime Rock for fireworks. So I think this is a really good chance to promote Cornwall, bring a lot of people up from Torrington and the region on their way to Lime Rock for fireworks. So this July one is a great one to boost town businesses and things. And then we are going to be working on a taste of Cornwall in August to work with boosting the foods and farms. So both events will be a good chance for businesses in Cornwall to shine.
Very much.
That's great.
Jane Harold, you had something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I had a question, which isn't, it's something I read in Litchfield magazine, and there's a very nice article about Frank's.
Yep.
But in the beginning, it says that that Frank's is only the first new business in the village, which is as part of West Cornwall Development Group's project aiming to revitalize the local economy. And I don't know who the West Cornwall Development Group aiming to revitalize our economy is. And I wondered if somebody on the EDC does know.
So, yeah, so that's who is it all? It's Jeffrey Morgan, all of the people who bought together the Pink House property, which houses Frank's, and
it's the investment group.
Exactly, yeah. So
they have a plan. Do we know anything about?
Well, I think they are moving. You know, I think they don't have anything concrete quite yet. It's formulating as they are going. You know, they've been in existence for a while.
Maybe they could come to the EDC and talk to us.
We could have them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'll give them a shout.
Thank you very much. That's great. Anything else? Okay, the next meeting is on July the 26th. What's the sense of the group about whether we should actually meet physically? Or do you prefer to do it by Zoom?
I'm in favor of in person.
July
Give
will
and
be
take.
difficult. July will be difficult for me personally, but other than that, I'm generally in favor of in person.
Maybe we should hold off in person to September then.
I'm in favor. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm in favor of in person until September.
Go for it.
I agree. I'm not going to be here for the July meeting, but I agree that in person would be good when we can do it.
If you want to do in person, I would be happy to call in because I can probably be available. It's just I won't be in the town. So.
All right. Well, let's try for in person then in July. See how it goes. Great. Well, with that, proposal to adjourn. Second. Anyone opposed? Anyone want more of this? No. Great. Thanks very much. Speak to you.
Good night, all.
July.
Bye-bye.
Night.
Thanks, everyone.
Au revoir.